Mr. President.
Senator from Georgia.
Mr. President, I first want to say thank you to Senators Brown, Bennett, and Booker for keeping a spotlight on this issue. I must admit, however, on this issue, when I say Senators Brown, Bennett, and Booker, I think about the multiple choice questionnaires we got in school, and I'm wondering how a guy with the last name Warnock got to be a part of this effort, but I'm grateful. Mr. President, I want to get right to the point. There are many reasons to move this Build Back Better American package forward. We have to build back better. We have a historic opportunity to make landmark investments that will strengthen our families, our economy, our care infrastructure, including expanding Medicaid benefits to more than 4 million Americans. We've got 600,000 Georgians in the Medicaid gap. We've got to provide critical debt relief for small farmers who have taken a financial hit during the pandemic. All of these things are covered in this Build Back Better agenda. But the other top priority of mine, and why we're all here today, is that we have a chance to extend the expanded child tax credit we've already seen making a difference in the lives of over 2.2 million children just in Georgia alone. I want to be clear about who this tax cut helps, because people who have no vision engage in division, and sometimes when we're discussing these policies, we need to slow down and make sure folk know exactly who we're talking about. 97% of American families with children would benefit from this tax cut. After we passed the American Rescue Plan, which significantly expanded the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit to put more money in the pockets of working families, I remember that Senator Bennett called me from his car. He was on his way back home. I had just gotten elected, and just a few short months after I got elected, we passed the American Rescue Plan because we won the majority and were able to do this. Senator Brown said to me, Raphael, this is one of the best days of my career because we were able to pass the American Rescue Plan with all of its amazing provisions, and this provision alone is transformational. Experts have said that this investment that we made earlier this year would cut child poverty in half nationwide. Think about that. One provision, just giving ordinary people, hardworking families, a break, cuts child poverty in half. This is good public policy. But I'll tell you what would be bad public policy. It's bad public policy to cut child poverty in half one year and then go back the very next year and double child poverty. That's poor public policy. It's not right, and it's not smart. The expanded child tax credit is helping Georgians, and you want to know how I know that? I know because as I'm moving across the state, they are telling me, and it's no surprise, when you put an extra $200 or $300 in the bank account of ordinary people, working people, it makes a huge difference. And in my regular travels around the state, Georgians have told me how this tax cut for working families has made a difference in their lives, made their lives just a little bit easier, especially at the start of a new school year. A few weeks ago, I was down in Columbus, Georgia, and I met with some of the hardworking families who received this tax cut. And as I stand here, Mr. President, I think about Dante and Alicia, a couple I met down in Columbus, Georgia. Their daughter's name is London. And I asked them, what are you going to do with this monthly payment? And they said that it will help cover the cost of school clothes and brain building, extracurricular activities. They had a very active young daughter, very bright London. She came to the meeting. And they said that we wouldn't be able to afford these extracurricular activities, but this extra support, just this little lift, it's made a difference in our personal economy. It's made a difference for London. I talked to Will, who works as a local hairdresser, and the monthly payment helps his 12-year-old daughter participate in karate tournaments, a development opportunity that family would not otherwise be able to afford. In another conversation, I asked a Georgia mom of two young growing boys, where would this tax cut go? I said, what are you going to do with this tax cut? You know what she said to me? She said, I'm going to buy food and shoes. You know, when you give ordinary folk a break, when you give them an extra $200 or $300 a month, you know, they go and buy extravagant things like food and shoes and a coat for their kid. They invest in extracurricular activities because they want to see their children do a little bit better than they did. And when they invest in their children, in a real sense, they invest in all of our children. Because when you give folk who already have everything they need and then some, you give them that money, they can hold on to that money. But when you give money to ordinary folks, they put that money right back into our local economies and into our small businesses. Often the right thing to do is also the smart thing to do. It creates jobs, helps all of us. And so the expanded child tax credit grows and bolsters our economy from the bottom up. I agree with Senator Brown. I'm old enough just old enough to remember when folks were talking about trickle-down economics. And as a pastor, I've worked and conducted my ministry in these communities that have been hearing folks talk about trickle-down for the last 40 years. The way to grow an economy is from the bottom up. The right thing to do is the smart thing to do. Mr. President, the expanded child tax credit is changing lives right now, and we have a chance in this economic package we're working on to secure this investment for working Georgians and Americans into the future. And that's why I believe we should make it permanent. And I'll keep advocating for that. But extending this critical tax cut right now is the right thing to do for working families. We ought to do it. We ought not just talk about it, we ought to do it. The scripture says, he has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require but that you do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. I see the face of God in the faces of our children. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.